We're going to get started. We're going to be pretty much punctual today. So, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today for our webinar on Too Many Hats: An Owner's Path to Reclaim Time, Team, and Traction. By way of introduction, I am so excited to introduce my co-facilitator here. We have Nicole Davidson, founder and CEO of Beacon HR. Beacon provides fractional HR leadership and talent acquisition for growing businesses. Myself, I'm Shannon Johnston, along with my partner, Nina Schwark. We own OpsLab Integrators for companies running on EOS. We provide fractional and interim integrator services as well as integrator coaching. So if you don't know what an integrator is, if that's not part of your current vocabulary, hang tight. We'll be getting into that in today's presentation. But what's fun about Nicole and I coming together on this presentation is we kind of walk the talk of everything, walk the walk, talk the talk of everything we're going over today. Not only are we both business owners, I also act as the fractional integrator for the BC or for the Beacon HR team. Nicole sits in the visionary seat. I am her integrator, and we've built a robust leadership team and growing team at Beacon HR. So, everything we're talking about today is really the journey that we've had together at Beacon HR and that Nicole's experienced as well. So, we're really excited about that to share some of our key learnings, takeaways, and yeah. I'm assuming that many people have joined this presentation today because either you are an owner with wearing too many hats, not quite sure how to get out of them, which ones to get out of, or you might be a leadership team member or another member of the team who might be experiencing the same thing. So, our hope today is that through this presentation and going through some of the content, you start to identify some of those seats and some tools and process for elevating out of them to whichever the correct seat is for you. All right. Second there. All right, so welcome and what's ahead. So today's journey, what we're going to be covering off today is we're going to identify the pain of missing roles in the account in the organization, or the pain of sitting in too many seats. We're going to have a look at what great looks like in action. We're going to explore fractional versus full-time models. As I mentioned, both Nicole and I are owners of fractional for professional services firms. Sometimes fractional is the right route to go. Sometimes full-time models is the right way to go. So we're going to look at that a little bit more. Are going to end off with some complimentary offers to use in future use. And we're going to end our session today with Q&A. On that note, if you have any burning questions while we're talking, if anything comes up and triggers you, please put it in the Q&A section and we'll make sure we hit as many questions as possible as we wrap up today. We are scheduled to go until 10 a.m., give or take. So we're going to wrap immediately at 10 a.m. And yeah, go from there. All right, so we're going to start off with naming the pain. So, which seats or functions are you in? And what we see on the screen here is we have what in my world is called an accountability chart, or the basis, the framework of an accountability chart. And so every business, no matter what business you're in, we all have key functions within the business. Every single business needs revenue that's driven by sales and marketing. Every business then has operations, which is delivering the product or service that we have sold. Every business has finance, we hope. And every business should have HR as well, given that all businesses are really made up of humans and human energy and human challenge and issues. So when we start our businesses, we typically sit in a lot of these seats as owner operators. You know, we're getting our business going. So we are usually the one getting, the clients in, getting the customers in. We're usually, even playing around with some marketing initiatives on our own. Sometimes we are the service provider ourselves. Um, Sometimes we're leading finance. Sometimes we're even doing some of the financial admin ourselves. And sometimes we're making all of the human resources decisions. We're leading that as well. So sometimes we're sitting in all of these seats. Sometimes we're sitting in some of these seats. It's usually out of necessity and less out of want and need. And then as the business grows, we start to experience issues. Whether we start to experience issues, maybe revenue is slowing down, maybe we're running into operational challenges, maybe we don't have a handle on what's going on in finance, maybe we're making incorrect HR decisions. There could be a number of things happening. Or as an owner operator, you might realize you just don't want to be sitting in these seats anymore and you don't know what to do about it. What this could look like is we're missing goals. So you have a vision in mind of what you'd like to achieve and you can't seem to quite get there. There's often reactive firefighting where quite often the same issues are bubbling up in different ways and we feel like we're constantly firefighting. There's weak accountability in the organization. There's not a lot of clarity. Nobody really knows what they should be doing or who they should be talking to about what. And weekend work creep or outside of work creep starts to happen. I work with a lot of visionary owners. I see it all the time, or leadership team members that are their work week is creeping, 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 and they don't see an end in sight. So it causes a lot of stress and a lot of pain, as you can imagine. So I'm assuming that given you've registered for this, some of what I'm talking about might be resonating today. So I want you to just take a moment, think about the functions in the business, the seats in your business, and think about what might be coming up for you and hearing all that. Before we move on to the next slide, I do want to talk about HR, the HR seat. So for anybody that's familiar with Traction EOS, the HR seat is something that I've added in there because as a fractional integrator, I quite often see it missing from accountability charts, which is just mind-boggling. So if it's missing from yours, I just want you to take a moment and Nicole's going to talk about what happens when HR is not missing from the table or the last in the room.
Great. Thanks so much, Shannon. So your last slide resonates with me so deeply. When I started working with Shannon about a year ago, I felt like as the founder of the business, I felt like I was wearing, I don't know, 9 out of 11 hats. So it's been amazing to make some changes over the last year and elevate some of our team members into leadership. So that one hit me with the weekend work creep hit me hard there. So what happens when HR is last in the room? Well, we know small and medium-sized business. We're industry agnostic, and this is consistent across every organization that we've worked with over the past decade. When HR is not at the table, or when you as a leader or founder are doing HR off the side of your desk or think you're doing HR off the side of the desk, we see very high risk environments with very low compliance. So how this shows up day to day is things like you maybe have some policies, but nobody really knows about them. You don't have an employee handbook, or you think you have one, but it hasn't actually been reviewed in the last 5 years. And super high risk, which can lead to things like very expensive legal missteps, opens you up to things like constructive dismissal, hiring mistakes, firing mistakes. We often get brought in when leaders are so frustrated because they feel like they've spent all this time and money to attract and hire the right talent for their team. But then they don't last. It's like a revolving door. And then we see bottlenecks and weak processes. So when HR isn't at the table, we see really broken processes. We don't see strong systems thinking around your people function. We see very little HR infrastructure, or maybe there are some pieces of your HR program that are built up, but then you have some really significant gaps. And then burnout and low productivity. So your A players, you've spent all this time and money to, again, attract and hire the right people. then when, let's say you bring them in, you don't have a strong onboarding process, their engagement is low from the get-go, or maybe they had misrepresented expectations. They thought that the role was going to be one thing. They get in, they realize that it's something completely different. They don't understand how success is measured in their role. They end up leaving. Your existing A players might already have been feeling burnout. They might already be spread too thin, which leads to more chaos in your environment and really a lack of confidence in your leadership team.
All right. So we're going to now talk about like integrator and HR. So it's a powerful partnership. And just actually before I move on to that, as a fractional integrator and with my team of fractional integrators, we often go into organizations and when that HR seat isn't even listed on the accountability chart, what the expectation often is that all of the leaders become our HR experts. And it's a misconception, I think, that just because you're an excellent operations leader, meaning you have that expert HRT. Same with the revenue leader, the finance leader. Quite often, for whatever weird reason in organization chart land, sometimes HR gets nestled under finance. And I come from a pretty strong financial background, so I've worked with some exceptional financial leaders, controllers, finance teams. And while they're exceptional at finance, and if you struggle with financials and understanding financials or keeping your books current, amazing at that. That's what they understand as their accountabilities. Them providing HR leadership and guidance can um, sometimes be a challenge. So the other thing is too many hats. If it's an unacknowledged seat on the accountability chart and it's just an expectation that our leaders are spending their time trying to navigate these HR issues, that's what can start to lead to, wearing too many hats, including this HR piece. So I think it's important to note. So, integrator plus HR, a powerful partnership. So, this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the integrator role. If you're already operating your business on EOS, if you're already familiar with the integrator role, this will just be a refresher for you about the core accountabilities. Because when we look back here at the accountability chart, this is just partially finished. Because what actually happens is instead of just having the functions, we actually outline the core accountabilities of each seat. What do the people need to be exceptional at in this seat to help us drive towards our goals? So, with that in mind, we're going to have a look at this integrator seat. So the integrator owns the business plan. So when I talked about one of the challenges being missing goals, missing metrics, maybe where that might be one of the challenges we're facing in this too many seats. Quite often it's because we're missing that person that actually owns that whole business, that business plan, keeps all the functions driving towards the same vision, driving towards those same goals, and increases that accountability. The integrator is also responsible for leading, managing, and holding the leadership team accountable. That's what LMA stands for, lead, manage, and hold accountable. So we lead the leadership team or all the people sitting in those core function seats, the revenue, the ops, the finance, the HR. So we're leading them, we're managing them, we're holding them accountable to their projects, to their metrics. We're integrating all of those functions, and when we're hitting a bump, we're hitting a speed bump, we're working to remove that obstacle. We're figuring out, okay, do we have a people problem? Do we have a process problem? So we're really holding that accountability within the organization. We lead the structure, the cadence, and the discipline. So, the reason why this integrator role was introduced is a lot of founders, owners are what we call a visionary in EOS land. So, visionaries are exceptional at problem solving. They're exceptional at managing big relationships. They're exceptional at being the face of the company. They're exceptional at thinking about what's next. What they're not necessarily strong at is the consistency and the disciplines that are required to keep the business moving forward. Because what happens innately in them is they have a great idea and they want to start on that great idea while the rest of the team is working towards the plan. And so we have to prioritize. We also have to make sure that every department, every team is meeting on a regular basis, that communication flows are happening. And then we also build the guardrails for delegation. So what I've come into a lot of times is I start working with a visionary and they're nervous to let go of the vine or let go of those seats that they were previously in because they've tried it before and it's failed. And that's quite often not because only them can do that seat. It's quite often because we didn't have the proper guardrails in place to delegate successfully. So that's where your integrator comes into play. We have a look at all those seats. What are the seats required for our organization? Who's sitting in those seats? Are they the right people? And I'm going to talk about the process we go through to do that, but the integrator owns that function within the business. Flipping over to HR.
Great. Thanks, Shannon. So HR, we work so well in tandem with an integrator because on the HR side or through the HR lens, you'll see that there is some crossover, but we have a different lens. So we work with leaders to design or to enhance performance management, making sure that you've got really clear expectations set for team members. You've got an environment of feedback where hard conversations happen frequently and often. We develop talent pipelines. So we want to make sure that you always have a bench of talent so that your recruitment is not reactive. Ideally, we want your recruitment to be proactive. And something that we get to do is look ahead, look at your recruitment needs for the next 12 plus months. And be really proactive so that it's not always a fire, or if you have a key team member suddenly leave, it's not always a fire. We're building that bench. We build leadership capacity. So we work with leaders to really give you the time back to do what you do best and what you enjoy doing most as part of the business and running your business. HR, we often work with leaders and founders who are either doing HR off the side of the desk or they think they're doing HR off the side of their desk, and HR will take that off of their shoulders and give them back time and mental space. And then we protect the culture. So making sure that your unique DNA is clearly understood and then woven through all of your people programs from recruitment to performance management, making sure that we're hiring and firing based on your values. And this is a flag to look out for if you're considering working with an HR partner. You want to make sure that they don't have that copy paste kind of attitude. What works for one organization does not necessarily work for another. So utilizing your culture and your unique DNA is super important. And then finally, we ensure compliance. Employment standards, as you all know, it changes all the time. A lot of leaders are pulling their hair out and really frustrated because they feel like they can't keep up, and the compliance is often not one of the most fun parts of the job. So we stay on top of employment standards to make sure that you're kept ahead and not behind and reactive.
And so one of the things why I think this is such a powerful partnership and integrator in HR is like, again, we have the benefit of working together, Nicole and I, in this visionary integrator capacity. We also share a couple of clients as well, which makes it really interesting because we are there as independently as OpsLab as our fractional integrator capacity. Beacon is there as the fractional strategic HR support. And the way it all works together to drive towards the goals is absolutely phenomenal and where we see the greatest success. It's when we get the right people in those right seats. So, Nicole, how do we know HR is, how do we know it's working?
Yeah, how do you know? So, oh,
I was just going to say, while we go through the next couple of slides, if you just have a piece of paper or something to jot down beside you, we just wanted you to take a moment and rate how you're currently doing in some of these factors, how your organization is currently on a scale of 1 to 10. Just take some quick notes because it'll help you understand, is this an area of opportunity? Is this what's starting to drive, like what's driving a lot of time suck, too many hats, too many seats? sitting in too many seats? Is this broken within the organization?
Yeah, so five is where you're crushing it. Every single 5 out of 5, every single employee knows what's expected of them and how they're doing. If I were to ask one of your team members, did you, at the end of the week on a Friday, did you have a good week or did you have a good month? They can give you a clear answer. They know exactly what success looks like. And then managers, we know that this is working when managers are having those hard conversations early and often. 5 out of 5 would be if I were to ask one of your new managers, let's say they were an amazing independent contributor. They've moved into a management position. They've been in the role for 6 months. If I were to ask them, do you feel empowered to have hard conversations with your team members? They would say, yes, absolutely. I feel empowered. I feel supported. I know how to have hard conversations, as opposed to what we see in a lot of orgs is leaders and new managers, especially leaning away, not feeling confident in having these hard conversations, which can lead to a lot of issues like you exit a team member, you decide to terminate a team member, and they have no idea. They have no idea. They didn't know that they weren't performing. And then people feel a really strong sense of connection to the business. And this can be through the level of transparency that is right for your organization at that time. So sharing the right information at the right time. This can be through an environment of psychological safety and trust. And this can be, we really, in companies that are winning at this, we see employees, team members are really deeply connected to the mission and the vision of the org. And then 5 out of 5 would be, you know, that you've got really strong processes. You've got a really strong process around hiring. I'm not going to say you have to have a world-class recruitment infrastructure, but at least best in class for your industry, your organization, so that you've got a competitive edge. You've got an onboarding process, an offboarding process. You feel confident that when you exit a team member, no balls are going to be dropped. When you're onboarding a team member, you know that you're going to carry on the momentum that started in the recruitment process. They're going to be really excited and they've got clear expectations of the role. And it's really ultimately supporting that A player engagement and retention. And again, we want to reduce the chaos for the feeling of chaos for your A players. We want them to have really high confidence in the business and in leadership. And then we know it's working if your culture is intentionally designed and your values are lived daily. So the question here would be, if you're a 5 out of 5, yes, I feel like our values are lived daily. Yes, we hire and fire based on our values. And in a couple minutes, Shannon's going to dive into values with a really neat tool.
All right, so same like looking at integrator success signals, how you know that it's working. So clear seats. Every role has a single owner who gets it, wants it, and has capacity to deliver the results. I'm going to talk about what that specifically means in a moment, but that's one aspect. Useful scorecards, so metrics-driven decisions, not necessarily gut feelings. Like everyone knows their numbers, everyone is acting on their numbers. Um, we know that we're focused on the most important things that are driving towards the continued growth of the organization. Visionary time. So this is a big one. So the owner operator, how much time are they given to work on their business or work on the business as opposed to firefighting in the business? How much of their time is spent in their true visionary seat, and how much of their time is spent for other interests? There's a great book called The EOS Life for any visionaries out there that want to read it. It really talks about what that is driving towards. You have a weekly rhythm established. So L10, otherwise known as level 10 meetings, run like clockwork. In these meetings, issues are raised, that we identify the root cause of that issue. we solve the root cause of the issue so that issue doesn't come back again. What we quite often see, and it's the integrator's job to really make sure everybody in the teams are driving towards the root cause of the issue, because otherwise, what happens is our issue gets raised, we come up with a band-aid solve for it. And a week or two later, that same issue is coming up again. So we need to make sure that we're solving the root cause issues as they come up. The reason why meetings are called L10 is they are level 10. 10 out of 10 meetings is what we're striving for. 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 is what we consider best in class, meaning that it's a valuable use of your time. A lot of companies have meetings and people walk away, and we often hear things that could have been sent in an email, or why are we having this meeting, or meetings happen, great ideas come forward, but there's no traction, there's no continuance of solving it. So that's what the integrator holds the accountability that we're having really valuable high value meetings for if we're going to be taking the time to have the meeting. Our talent is progressing. A players stay, grow, and refer other A players because there is a visible path forward. And this is where the partnership between integrator and HR comes in so beautifully, because it's a partnership to really work out those growth tracks that not just make sense for the individuals, but also make sense for the organization's perspective as well. It's the integration of what does the company need, finance, HR, all of the functions come together. If we have one person doing all of those things, as you can imagine, it just piles up, piles up, piles up, and it's time. We've hit our capacity. We're time to get out of those seats. And then goal achievement. Company and visionary goals are being achieved. So, the integrator should know what the company wants to achieve and also be working in partnership with the visionary to figure out what some of their personal goals are. What would they like to achieve as well? And so we just make sure that we have roadmaps, we have plans in place. In the EOS framework, we have very clear tools and rhythm and cadence to make sure we're driving towards that. And the true measure of success is that it's working. Our goals are being achieved. Yeah. So again, same thing. If on this aspect, just jot down on a scale of, I said 1 to 10, 1 to 10. Nicole's right, 1 to 5, and 5 out of 5 is this is we're crushing it in this world. So that's great. When you're looking at the 5 out of 5, it's not just are we achieving these things? Are we achieving these things? And it's not killing me. So just keep that in mind as well. So this is the tool that I wanted to dive into because it's an EOS tool. EOS implementers teach this exceptionally well if you're working with an EOS implementer. It's the tool that us integrators use with the leadership team, like starting at the leadership team level, starting with ourselves, starting with the visionaries, and then weaving it down through the organization. So we start with core values. So if you're an organization that's already established your values, fantastic. The next step is making sure, continuing to do core values checks. Are these alive and well in the organization? If you haven't established what your organization's core values are, we always start here. And the reason why is this is making sure we have the right people on the bus. This is making sure that the people that are joining our organization meet Nicole put it beautifully, like the DNA of our company. These are people that believe the same things we do, that are driven by the same things we are, that like to show up in the same way we do, collectively as an organization. And it's really important because before we look at delegating any of our roles, we have to make sure that the person we're delegating to is in core values alignment with us. If we miss this step, then we could put somebody in that seat who has the capacity to do the job. But I promise you, 100% of the time, if we have a core values misalignment, there are going to be issues and they're not going to end up being the right person. So we have to start with core values. Once we can answer, yes, this person is a core values alignment, that's when we move into this get it, want it, and have capacity framework. And so we have to make sure that the person gets the role. Do they understand what is going to be required from them? So quite often, if we don't have clear role descriptions, if we don't have clear expectations set for each role, then we put the person into the seat. We have assumptions and expectations of them, and they don't meet those expectations. But really, we'll be clear in setting that expectation. The wanted aspect is once they understand the role, do they genuinely want this role? This is something that nobody except the individual can impact, influence. We can't make somebody want a job. They have to want that role. They have to want that seat. There has to be a genuine desire to do it exceptionally well. So we have to answer, do they get the role? And now, do they want the role? And if they want the role, then we have to ask, where are they from a capacity perspective? Capacity can be, do they have the skill? Do they have the experience? Do they have the time? Do they have the mental, emotional ability to? Like, it's all the things that will make up to, can this person do the job? So this is the steps. These are the steps that I just kind of outlined why it's important. So we define our 3 to 5 non-negotiable values that define our culture. We apply that to every seat, but in this case, if you looked at that accountability chart and you were like, that seat, that's the seat that I know I need to get out of, we can do this just seat by seat as we're looking at elevating out of that seat. So you rate them. How are they on the core values? How are they about GWC? Be honest, because this is how we really truly respect our time, protect our time, our energy. We know we're investing in the right delegation step. And then we make the decisions. So if we go through this process and we believe somebody gets and wants has the job, but we think there might be a bit of a capacity issue, maybe they haven't experienced doing it before, that's when we build the appropriate guardrails because we want to develop their capacity. So we don't necessarily want to give them the full accountability tomorrow if we haven't set them up by success. And again, this is where either you yourself can create that plan or work with HR to build out what is that onboarding, those onboarding steps to take them to that next level. If somebody is a no on the get it or want it, don't even consider for them for the role. You really have to have really deep, meaningful conversations, get really clear about what the role is, and get really clear on what will be required, what the expectations are, and then that person has to really want the role. Otherwise, don't go down the path. Um, yeah. All right, Nicole.
This is yeah, GWC. This is one of my favorite frameworks. It's so powerful. And really actually quite insightful. So whether you are using a framework or not already, I highly recommend that you give this one a try because it really makes it very black and white. So highly recommend. Shannon, would you mind clicking through the rest of the slide for me here? So what is fractional? So most know at this point in 2026, fractional, all it means is you get a slice of an expert's time, not a full-time resource. It really makes sense when you still need that expertise, you need strategy, but it doesn't make sense for you to have a full-time team member, which of course adds to your fixed expenses and adds to your overhead. So why this strategy really makes sense for a lot of organizations and why we're seeing actually a lot of companies in the last year um, utilize this as a core strategy is because the market is still, things are really uncertain. We're living through some pretty crazy times right now. And a lot of organizations are really embracing this core flex model or a more elastic model for planning their workforce. When full-time wins is when you do very much need that full-time person who's going to be there every single day, who's going to be available every moment of every day. Because a fractional team member is a slice of somebody's time, usually what that might feel like, depending on how much time you bring them in for, is they're going to get back to you really quickly. They've got really clear goals on when they move things forward. They execute really, really well, really efficiently, but it's not going to feel like having that full-time team member who's there at your 24/7. And then Shannon, if you could click through the rest here, please, that would be great. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, the biggest, I would say the key message, if we can leave you with one thing when you're considering, do you need this strategic team member to be full-time or fractional? I would look at your financials first and understand, do you need and do you have the budget Do you have the capacity to add a full-time, you're adding this fixed overhead to a line item? And then do you have the workload to support it? But fractional, it's been really exciting to see the evolution of fractional over the past few years. We're really seeing it across all different business disciplines. And I think businesses that are going to win in 2026 are using it as a core strategy.
Yeah, and I would just add if you're looking at this and you've identified a seat and you can't imagine somebody, doing it on a fractional basis, sometimes interim is a really good solution. So using a fractional firm on an interim basis, because you do get that expertise to really build out that roadmap to integrate all those functions, as we talked about, in order to pave the way for a full-time person coming in place. So that's where the interim, like there's fractional, which is on an ongoing basis. We just need a slice of this person, at least for the foreseeable future. The next phase is, like the next is like, well, no, our business is quite complex. We do have the budget, or we think we have the budget, but we actually need somebody to come in and help us build that. That's where interim can come in really nicely as well. Yeah. Trigger points. When to seek help, expert help.
Yeah. And Shannon, go ahead and populate the rest of the
All
slide
right.
here. So
Very
yeah,
good.
we've got a wordy slide here, but if any of these are what you're feeling right now, this is a really good signal that it's time to seek expert help. So we've talked lots about hiring and firing gone wrong, complex risk in your business. If you're putting your head on the pillow at the end of your Monday night and you're stressed about risk in your business, this is a really good time to seek help. And then if you have inaccurate financials or lack of confidence in the financial health of the company. And this one really resonates with me. When I started working with Shannon a year ago, I thought we had high confidence in our financials. And then it's been really incredible to see over the past year all the checks and balances that we've put in, and it's been a huge level up for us. And then if it feels like your business or your employees are running you, you know that feeling instead of you running the business. If you find yourself wondering, well, wait a second, I'm not running a charity here. That's a really, really good moment to seek an expert. If your business is founder led, if you're sitting in so many of those seats and you feel like you're ready to delegate and elevate, and then if you've got those repeatable, scalable processes missing, you're likely a visionary founder of your business and you're likely not, the processes are probably not your sweet spot. That's probably not what you love doing. And then if your business is going through any kind of significant culture shift, like we've seen this a lot in the last couple of years with employees being in the office and then fully remote and then hybrid, or if you're going through any kind of radical business transformation, whether that's growth or otherwise. And then if you've tried to do goal setting, but haven't made any progress, if your ability to execute on those goals is low, or if you feel far from your vision, you feel like you're not actually achieving towards your vision. If you're already stretched too thin, we've talked about this quite a bit. And then if you feel overwhelmed or alone, if you feel like you're doing it all, and this has been another huge shift for me in the past year in working with an integrator has been really having that trusted advisor on my side who has a slightly different lens and a slightly different priority than, say, your employees or your leadership team. So it's just been a fabulous compliment for me and my business and for my general happiness day to day running the business.
And I just want to speak to that. The one thing that it's been, Nicole and I've been working together for around a year, and it's just been absolutely transformational. We did come out of our quarterly planning last week. So we had our leadership together for quarterly planning, and it was just so fun to watch. Just so many numbers being hit out of the park, the rock completion rate, just the engagement of the team, the buy-in of the team, the culture is just so happy, so joyful, and providing top-notch, top-class work for Beacon's clients. So it's been the true integration of all of the functions of the business, and it's just been such a joy to experience. Okay, so we have two offers today for you for taking time out of your morning here. So one is from coming from us at Ops Lab. If you want to IDS, identify, discuss, solve an issue, if anything came up to you and you're thinking, I would just love half an hour to talk this out with an integrator. We're offering that complimentary. So scan that QR code. There's a form to fill out, just a little bit of high level information, and somebody on our team will schedule in that call with you. So if it's anything from, I would just need somebody to look at these seats I'm sitting in and help me build out a framework of a roadmap or some ideas about how to get started. Those are the type of things that we'd love to be able to help you with. Zero pressure, zero risk, zero sales involved. That's a true give there. And then Nicole, do you want to chat about what you're sharing today?
Yeah, so the health check, and actually, I should have added, I included a stay interview guide. So the health check there is a self-assessment for your business. It's like a very mini audit to help you identify what you're doing very, very well and what the gaps are. It's a really popular tool and resource, so highly recommend that you take 5 to 15 minutes and do this for your business, especially as we're planning for the year ahead. What we're seeing, companies who are winning already this year and over the past year have some sort of an employee listening strategy. So I've included a state interview guide in there, which is again a really, really popular and useful tool.
Awesome. So next steps. Now, the free offers aside, go ahead, help yourself to those. But if you anything struck a nerve today, if you have listened to this and you're like, wow, HR is that seat that I really want to get out of, or we don't have, it's missing from our table, or whatever it is, the QR code to book time with a Beacon HR team member is right there. On the other hand, if you're thinking that integrator role, I've been sitting in both that visionary and integrator seat, or I'm not sure if I have the right person sitting in the integrator seat, and you want to have a conversation with OpsLab, feel free. Again, that's a QR code to take you to book in with a call just to explore the services and what working with either of our companies looks like. All right. So having a look, I mean, if anybody wants to pop any questions into the chat, I had a quick peek. One question that came up was around sharing the recording of this with the PowerPoint. Absolutely, we'll be sending a follow-up email with links to book in some time, with links to those free offers, and then with the presentation as well. So that's coming at you. Any other questions? We do have a few of our own that get brought up in others, so we wanted to talk a little bit about that. So I'll start with those if anybody has any other questions. So the first question that got raised at the last chat was, what's the first seat that a visionary should give up? So if you're a visionary and you're sitting in multiple, and this is the case for Nicole actually, not too long ago, where she was sitting in many, and which one should she give up first? That's really, you've got to do some soul searching on that one and use that GWC tool. There's another powerful tool called Delegate and Elevate. It's an EOS tool. If you go to eosworldwide.com, they have so many free templates, free videos that can walk you through things as well. So, if you do between, do I get this role? Do I want this role? And do I have the capacity for this role? Do I actually have the skills, experience, anything required? Um, Start there and then go to that elevate and delegate just at a high level. It's four quadrants where you focus first on those things that you're excellent at that give you energy, those things you love. Next quadrant, things that are okay, things that you like doing, probably not the same amount of energy as those things you love, but you don't mind keeping. Your bottom two quadrants are things I'm good at, but I don't like doing. And the fourth quadrant is things I don't like doing and I'm just not good at. So we always start with that bottom right quadrant and then work our way up to figure out what are those activities that we should be delegating. That exercise might lead you towards like, wow, this one seat makes up a lot of these things in my bottom two. Those are the ones I should give up. How transparent should I be with my financials? So this one is one that I got up, and again, I talk about this as an integrator. We need to make sure we have the right guardrails up. So first of all, at a leadership team level, we focus a lot on building our team health. So we do that with a variety of tools, including those core values. Do we know these people are in core values alignment with us? Do they get, want, and have capacity for their roles? So once we have a leadership team that we can answer yes to, we can then figure out, okay, we want to start sharing more of our financials. If we're not yet comfortable to share everything, what pieces are we sharing that, what pieces of those financials are we sharing? We want to give people enough information so that they can be exceptional in their roles and understand how their decisions are impacting the overall financial health of the organization. The third question that I've been asked is, how do I know if my integrator is in too many seats? So quite often a visionary, if you have a full-time integrator, they are actually a fractional integrator and you just don't know it. Their title usually says integrator, but if they are sitting on multiple seats on the accountability chart, it can be really challenging as you grow to stay exceptional in all of those seats. So you take your eye off one, the other one suffers. If you take your eye off, if they're sitting in the human resources seat and they take their eye off that in order to focus on operations, if they're sitting in operations as well, quite often they don't have, as the company grows, as people grows, as client grows, as revenue grows, they don't have the capacity, the time capacity to do both. They quite often don't want to. So again, it's the same exercise I would take them through. Scorecard metrics are a big indicator. Where are we slipping? Where is the business suffering? So there are different ways to know, okay, we've hit our ceiling with our integrator in multiple seats. So we need to make some changes. Sometimes that's where fractional integrator can come in if it's the integrator seat that they're not quite right for, but maybe they shine as an operations leader. Sometimes it's elevating them into that integrator seat usually with some coaching and a strategic roadmap on how to get them out successfully from the other seats they're sitting in. So, those are some common questions I've been asked. Unless there are any other questions, we can always give everybody 10 minutes of their time back. Before we do that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Nicole and I realized January is such a busy month coming back from the holidays, and a lot of people have been doing planning. So we're just really honored that you took time out of your day to learn with us today.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll send everything in a detailed follow-up for you. Reach out anytime.
Thanks so much.